Hey everyone, Justin here. Before we start this bonus episode, I just wanted to tell you guys about a nonprofit organization that was started up by a good friend of mine named Jordan, who I've known since high school. It is called Reel Outreach. That's R-E-E-L Outreach, as in a film reel. They are a nonprofit organization based in Texas, where we are. They're providing the opportunity for kids who otherwise wouldn't be able to afford to go to the movies, a chance to go to movies. So they're putting together screenings where they rent out an entire theater and invite kids from Boys and Girls Club, shelters, foster kids, that sort of thing. They're also working on being able to provide vouchers for movie tickets and for concessions to give to kids and families who can't attend one of the events where they rent out a theater. So they're trying to help in multiple different ways. And again, they're called Reel Outreach, R-E-E-L Outreach. They have a website at reeloutreach.com. Their first big push, they're a brand new organization. It's for the Avengers Infinity War movie. And right now they have a GoFundMe campaign where they're raising money specifically for Avengers Infinity War. If you go to their website, you can also choose to donate a one-time donation. You can set up a monthly donation that will be recurring, or you can go give specifically to this GoFundMe to specifically send a kid to go see Avengers Infinity War. And again, their website is reeloutreach.com. We think it's important for people to go to the movies, especially, kids going to see these superhero comic book movies and having a chance to escape and have a good time and get to go to the movies and have popcorn and have concessions and just have a really good time. And it's, maybe more important for kids and families in need to be able to do those things. So this is a cause we're behind, and we wanted to promote it on the show. So thank you for listening, and on with the show.
Hello and welcome to a very special bonus episode from Casual Cinemedia. My name is Chris.
My name's Justin.
And my name's Mike. And today we're going to be interviewing some filmmakers, the director William Stribling and the writer Russ Nickel, about their movie Bear With Us, which is a small independent film that you can actually watch right now on Amazon Prime for free.
And you may remember this episode if you've listened to us for a while. This is actually my number one film of 2017 from our Best of 2017 episode, and that's why we had him on, because I really like the movie.
You convinced me to watch it, and it didn't take much convincing, and I really loved it too. The dialogue is really witty. It's fast-paced with jokes, jam-packed full of them. What was your reaction, Mike?
Yeah, so I just actually watched this last night, and it was great. Yeah, I was watching it, and then my girlfriend came home. She watched the last 30, 40 minutes of it with me, and we were both just laughing. It was great. So a really great, easy to watch, small independent movie. We thought it would be fun to try and interview the filmmakers and see. Yeah.
And they're great guys, too, I think. I think they're really cool guys. So, go support them and watch their film.
And, in the interview, we get into, what got them into films, what films they like, the process of making the movie from, writing, actually shooting, casting, all of this stuff. And I think it's a pretty interesting conversation.
Yeah, absolutely.
And fun.
Yeah, so give it a listen. We hope you like it.
And real quick, before we dive into the interview, I just want to remind you guys about the contest that's going on. So give us a 5-star review, write a little tidbit, and then take a picture of it, mail it in to us. And then at the end of the month, we're going to pick someone at random. Whoever we pick gets to choose a movie for us to review. So don't forget to do that.
All right, to the interview.
So there I am, down on one knee. Quincy Adams, will you marry me? And she says,
you're gonna propose again. You're gonna propose again!
This trip could change my life. It could change everything.
A cabin in the woods. Have you ever even seen a horror movie?
I know that it's not the most glamorous location. It's all about who you're with, right?
He's not gonna be playing that the entire time, is he?
He might. And away we go!
Okay, so we have with us William J. Stribling. Am I pronouncing that right, Stribling?
Yeah, you're the first person in history to ever say it right.
Really?
Good job, Justin.
It doesn't seem that difficult.
Yeah, you'd think that, but I got a lot of striblings and a lot of striplings and a lot of stribbles and bits.
Yeah.
More of an interpretation, I guess.
Cool. And we also have with us Russ Nickel. And
That would, you
Are you pronouncing
butchered
that right?
pronunciation.
did I really? No. Yeah. William is the director of an independent comedy film called Bear With Us, and Russ, you are the writers, and I think you both wrote it together.
Yeah, no, you got it right. I directed it and then co-wrote it with Russ, who co-wrote it, and there was a team of 3 of us that produced it together.
So I just want to tell a little bit about how I came across your film. I know Russ knows, but William, this is the first time that you and I have actually spoken, other than like Facebook Messenger. I had a film that had its world premiere at a film festival in Fort Worth, and the first 5 minutes I was at the festival, I ran into some of the people who run the festival. You know, we introduced ourselves, told us what film that we had, which is our film was also a comedy film, and like the very first thing they said to us is like, what are you guys going to plan to watch? Because whatever your schedule is, make sure you fit Bear With Us in it, because you guys are going to love it. It's incredible. It was like the very first thing they said. And so we made sure to do that. We went and saw it, I think like the second night of the film festival, which was like the night before our film premiered. And like we absolutely loved it and thought it was amazing, and like laughed pretty constantly the whole way through. And myself and my partner with my film, we were walking out of the theater. It basically felt like, what is our film doing here? Like in the same festival as this, as this film. Like how did we even get in? Like that film is funny and our film is not.
I can't agree with that or disagree.
Sure. Yeah. But so that's just kind of the impression that it had on us. Like we both really enjoyed it a lot. And so since then I've been kind of like championing it and telling people, like my friends, to watch it and stuff. And so I wanted to have you guys on here to be able to like promote the film, because it's out now. And I guess I'll turn it over to you guys. Do you want to just tell the listeners like about the film, what it's about, like what accolades you've won, anything like that you want to say?
First of all, when I arrived, they said the same thing to me about yours. So that it goes both ways. Awesome. They loved you guys too. So yeah.
Honestly, I got to get back in the groove of this. We haven't done any press for the movie in so long. I'm trying to remember.
Well, so I can do the log line.
Okay,
which is so a guy goes on a romantic cabin getaway in an effort to propose to his girlfriend.
For the second time.
Yeah, but his very meticulous, like perfectly laid proposal plans go horribly awry when they're derailed by a ravenous bear. But yeah, if we want to trick people into watching the movie, we could talk about how we won Best Feature at a bunch of different film festivals, and we got distribution from like this awesome comedy distributor that does most of the stand-up specials, like the Netflix stand-up specials.
Oh, nice.
So they just started acquiring features and thought that ours was funny, and so it's out there in the world now.
Yeah, right now it's on like all the VOD platforms and iTunes, but if you have Amazon Prime, you can watch it for free in its entirety. And the DVD release is happening soon. We don't have an exact release date yet, but it's
probably within a month.
Yeah,
or two.
we think pretty soon.
So it should be at like theoretically like Target, Walmart,
Amazon, that kind of place.
Yeah.
Oh, awesome.
Blockbuster.
Yeah. Go to your nearest Blockbuster and just rent it.
I wish. I don't know if you know this, but like, all 3 of us used to work at Blockbuster together.
Oh,
and if this film had come out, I would be peddling it to those people too, like the customers.
I wish I'd worked at a Blockbuster.
It was pretty cool.
I think, it's one of my favorite jobs I've ever had. Even though I have a job now and make way more money than I ever made at Blockbuster, that one still holds up.
Yeah, impossible. Yeah, Blockbuster paid really well.
To this podcast.
Were you working there up until when they closed?
Some of us were.
Yeah, I worked at one part-time when I was in college while it was in the process of going out of business.
Did you snag anything cool on the way out?
Yes, actually. Got a lot of really, really cheap movies.
Nice.
Yeah, like a lot. And then like seasons upon seasons of like, I think I got like all of Band of Brothers and like,
nice.
I got like seasons of 24 for my dad.
The only problem was they were all on VHS.
Actually, the one that you worked at in Nacogdoches for a while still carried VHS up until it closed, right?
Yeah, it was like a franchise. It was like separate from the
weird.
corporate entity. So they were allowed to just keep their like backwoods ways.
Yeah, so that was like 2010 or 11, right?
Yeah,
Oh, wow.
yeah. They had like old
We ended up bringing
VHSs
no
of
DVD.
Cary Grant movies and stuff like that. It was pretty cool.
Wow.
So I guess we just want to get to know you guys a little bit. Like, we are generally like a movie reviewing podcast and not so much one for like filmmakers. So I guess like just curious, like what got you guys into wanting to make and write films?
Russ, you first.
Oh, yeah, I can do it. I guess my story that I tell is that when I was a wee babe in the early years, my parents would just sit me down and watch The Simpsons, which came out around the time I was born. So I think starting at like age 0, I watched The Simpsons every single night, which I don't think was healthy.
No, my parents wouldn't let me watch The Simpsons. Your parents said
Yeah, my friends weren't allowed to either. They're real hippies. But I didn't understand it for a long time. So eventually, like, I would just sit there silently. And finally, I started, after episodes were over, like, walking up to my parents and being like, okay, this joke is funny because of this. Like, I never laughed at the jokes, but I was, like, processing them and starting to understand, like, how comedy worked. And apparently it was unsettling. So I've just tried to follow that. And I think, like, ever since I was in 3rd grade, I've wanted to be a comedy writer. So,
Well, great.
yeah.
I grew up doing a lot of theater, and I got like a camcorder sometime in the 90s and just made dumb movies on the weekends with kids in the neighborhood, and never thought of it as like a real thing. And then I went to a performing arts high school and studied musical theater for a long time. And when it came time to look at colleges, I realized, like, I don't want to be an actor. Like, this seems hard. Acting seems like a grind. And so I thought, oh, like, I'll just make movies, right? Like, that's an option. I figured out film school was a thing, and I started looking into it, and I think that was kind of my foray into it. I mean, I probably saw movies like Citizen Kane and like American Beauty, like the ones that, everyone talks about being the inspirational ones.
Yeah, the essentials.
From our generation anyway. Yeah, I saw them too young, I think. Like way too young. But I loved them, I don't think like an 11-year-old should necessarily watch Citizen Kane because like what could I possibly have taken away from it? But I remember watching it multiple times and like really loving it and thinking it was kind of amazing. And only now do I really kind of appreciate why the movie's amazing.
So were you watching those films like through your parents?
No, like my parents were pretty, I don't know, like lenient about that stuff. I'd go to Blockbuster and just browse and like read the backs of boxes and pick up a VHS that sounded interesting to me, and then I'd like watch it in my room. And yeah.
So yeah, parents or potential parents out there, if you want to rear a filmmaker, you just need to warp their brains by exposing them to things too early.
Yeah.
I think that's what we learned.
I think that's fair
from this podcast.
Yeah. So you so you went to film school. Where did you go to film school?
I went to NYU. Yeah, like I was on like kind of the directing track. I didn't really start writing until like halfway through my time at NYU. I didn't really know what a screenplay was until I had to take a screenwriting class, and I really took to it. And as a format, it's a really strange format, and it's really hard for a lot of people to figure out and figure out how to actually do it the right way. And it was kind of too easy for me to write in that style. And in the format. So I kind of ran with that, and then went to grad school at Chapman for screenwriting, and that's where I met Russ, and that's where our love affair began. Proverbial love affair.
Yeah.
Oh, right, we have to say proverbial,
Yeah.
because this is going to be out in the world.
So how did Bear With Us come about?
We drove to a Weird Al concert.
Yeah, I mean, I pitched it. The story that we've told a gazillion times is I pitched him the idea. Like, we were driving down to San Diego to a Weird Al concert, and
where inspiration happens.
Yeah, the honest truth is that like in grad school, I was really frustrated seeing, and this was the case in undergrad too. I was frustrated by watching classmates spend boatloads of money on their short films, their movies,
right.
And then these movies are bad. Like they were just all bad, and they were so expensive, and it made me kind of upset. And I, had this kind of idealistic
fever dream.
Yeah, I was like, well, what if I bet we could make a a fucking feature film that's good and put real people in it for the price of these goddamn short films. And, I was totally cynical about it. And it was a challenge. Like, it was a challenge that I posed to Russ. It was like, hey, I'm going to try and do this. Do you want to do it with me? Here's the idea I have right now for a relatively contained story. Trying to write to a large budget for a short, but a really low budget for a feature, which was the area we were operating in. So it's like, well, and at that point there was no money. It was just ideas. It was, this cabin in the woods story. And through the course of that road trip, I say road trip, we were in Orange County going to San Diego, so it was like 90 minutes. Although we missed a couple of exits, so we got some extra time. We were just like really into it. We just kind of ran with it. And the basic bones of the movie, like, we put them in place there. And then, it was 6 months of writing later that we had a finished draft. But that's where it started. I'm trying to rack my brain to, like, right. The inspiration for the movie is like, it was born out of how do you force people in a cabin together. I love good rom-coms. I feel like they're kind of a dying breed of movie. Like, I grew up on what I think are pretty good rom-coms. And,
and the whole idea that a good rom-com, if you think about it in real life, is really frightening because grand romantic gestures are really like stalkery things. Like, anytime anyone did a movie grand romantic gesture, you would want
like in The Notebook, like in Ryan Gosling climbs the Ferris wheel at the beginning of the movie. In real life,
that's crazy.
He'd get arrested,
right? Arrested, and then he would need, like, a girl would be afraid of him and wouldn't want to talk to him, and he would need to go to therapy.
Yeah, there should really be a lot more restraining orders in rom-coms.
Yeah, exactly. Which is probably what the people in Bear With Us need.
Yeah, yeah. It was kind of fun to deal with these protagonists, like your hero couple that is presented as a standard rom-com scenario, and then as the film goes on, you realize that they're absolutely insane, both of them in their own ways, and they, we kind of have fun taking it to its limits.
Like, I love that scene in Love Actually when the guy, like, has the note cards and the Christmas Caroler music. And he's like doing the thing to Keira Knightley, and they're like best friends. Like, if I'm Keira Knightley, I'm like,
that's creepy.
Dude, your best friend just showed up and told me he was in love with me
with these fucking cards.
If you go out there right now, you could still see him.
Yeah, exactly. Like, not like, oh, that's sweet.
Yeah, it's a good scene. Like, it's actually, like, really impactful.
Sure.
But when you break it down and you think about it,
it doesn't work in real life.
It's
right.
It's really wrong, and that guy's kind of a piece of shit.
Yeah,
and most genre movies though have that leap you have to make, right? Like, there's the one thing where if you can get on board with this basic, like, base level thing and idea, then the rest of the movie works, like, on a plot level. Right. You just have to go along with the one.
If you can
bear
conceit, with them, so to speak.
Yeah, if you can bear with it.
And I think so much of comedy is just like, as I'm sure you guys know, like taking that same stuff and then having people have real emotional reactions to it.
Yeah.
Real quick, I just want to take a little sidebar. You mentioned you really like romantic comedies. What are you guys' opinion of, like, the best romantic comedies?
Personally, the ones everyone goes to, like When Harry Met Sally, that's fine, but that doesn't do it for me. I think I'm the wrong generation to love that.
Yeah.
My favorite rom-com is a weird movie made in 2001 called Get Over It. It's got Ben Foster.
Nice.
Ben Foster, Kirsten Dunst. No.
Is that a different one?
That's a different one. But this has, like, Martin Short in it, and Shane West, and Cisco, and Colin Hanks, and it's like the cast is totally stacked. Like, Carmen Electra's in it for some reason, Ed Begley Jr. and Swoozie Kurtz, and it's just, like, fantastic cast. And the director didn't really do a whole lot else, but it's kind of it's an adaptation of Midsummer Night's Dream, but set in a high school. And it's got that kind of, like, swanky early 2000s vibe to it. But it's, like, really stylized, and I think the script is super funny and sharp. And someone like Ben Foster, is taking the whole thing really seriously. He's, like, really grounding his character in this reality, so everything hits 10 times harder because of it. So that's I would say that's probably my favorite rom-com.
Did that film kind of get, like, I don't know if it got, like, a weird rap, because I think I remember, like, the cover, like, Cisco's kind of front and center.
Yeah, Sisko's totally front center, and he has like 8 lines in the movie.
Yeah.
It's really funny, and he's got his bits are kind of ridiculous, and they use his dancing ability a lot.
Yeah.
Like the idea is that the high school is doing a musical adaptation of Midsummer, and he's one of Ben Foster's best friends. I don't know. It's very funny, but yeah, it had I think weird marketing, the way that like in 2001 you had to sell to like the lowest common denominator, and then which is I'm sure how I went to see it. I was 11, and it's like it was out. I was like, let's go see this. Like I think it's rated R. I want to say it's a rated R comedy.
In the early 2000s, there were a lot of rated R. Like
yeah.
Man, 11 was a good year. Get Over It, Citizen Kane.
Yeah. It's a good year.
I gave shit to Love Actually earlier, but
no, I love
that has
Love
a special
Actually.
place in my heart.
If you give into it, it works.
Yeah,
like the movie's great.
But I also love the new stuff. Like The Big Sick probably is on my top 5 rom-coms ever.
Yeah, it's a good one.
I just watched it. It's super great.
Yeah.
Which is very descriptive, but yeah, I really like that.
Stupid, talented people.
Yeah.
No, it's encouraging though, because it makes me feel like we might have a trend back towards like good rom-coms.
Yeah.
I really like How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days. I know that's like corny McConaughey, but it's really good, and like Tom Lennon is in it, and he's great, and
Yeah, he's always great.
Yeah. So I can get into that one, but again, like early 2000s, that was for me like a little heyday, and I think the ones that get made currently are not too great.
Yeah, it makes me sad because I do get excited like every time I see one of those type of films, and because I love them as well. I guess I grew up on a little bit more of like the Adam Sandler ones, like The Wedding Singer is one of my favorites.
Yeah.
And
Sure, that's a great
10
one.
Things I Hate About You, which is another like teen Shakespeare adaptation.
Yeah.
But I also really love like the older like Bringing Up Baby screwball comedies.
Wait, Bringing Up Baby.
Yeah.
Is that on purpose?
No.
That film gets. We were going to talk about Bear With Us analogs. I almost talked about Bringing Up Baby, but that's like one of the ones I think of because it's all about like the insanity of this animal and like as things like the opening or closing of doors and like trying to keep track of stuff as it just escalates.
And that was like the heyday of like classic farce, which I approached Bear With Us in that way of like coming from a theater background, it's like this is farce, this is like a French farce to me.
It felt a lot like a Howard Hawks movie when I was watching it.
Sure,
like just really snappy, really fast.
Yeah, I think that's one of the reasons that I connected with it so much is because it does have that screwball comedy, just everything going wrong and building on top of itself. It's very fun.
Screwball is a word that gets thrown around a lot, and what we didn't with this movie, and we didn't really, going into the whole festival tour thing, anticipate that like an older generation would love the movie so much, only because it's kind of like crude at times and vulgar and whatever. But I think they are like they clued into it, and festival audiences, honestly, they tend to be older audiences.
Yeah, our strongest demographic is like 60s, 70s liberals.
Yeah, they love it, and they just talk about it feeling like a throwback to like the screwball era that they grew up on. And we weren't totally intentionally going for that, but I'll take it.
Then that kind of segues. I have a question, and I don't think it's a spoiler to say that the film is shot in black and white. and I guess thinking about those screwball comedies, and you're saying it wasn't necessarily an intention to go for the screwball comedies, like that, I guess that was my thought process of why it was in black and white, because it did remind me so much of the older screwball comedies. But so what was you guys' thought process on putting it in black and white?
And that's a little bit true, actually, because part of it was that you said it was like snappy, so it's really like a dialogue-driven piece, right? So it's not about the visuals, and it's one location stuff, so it's like you want the audience to be paying attention the whole time and like hearing all the jokes, and there's so many plants and payoffs that like like listening is important.
Yeah, and color can be a distraction, and like that wasn't the initial intention behind it. I mean, the honest truth is that just when I conceived of the idea, I just wanted it came to me in black and white. I don't really know why, but as we started to write it and figure out the tone of the piece, I think what the black and white did was ground the film in a way that let us get away with a lot of the like crazier things, like the really broad things that happen in the movie, like the slapstick farce elements. They're impactful and grounded in part because of the strange tone that the black and white lends to the film. And and then on top of that, it was a way to help make the film look better on a lower budget. Our budget for costumes and for set decoration and all of that was relatively low. And if you know, and lighting even, if you don't have to worry about like color anymore, and all you're worrying about is tone, you have far more inexpensive opportunities to fill your screen with the textures and as opposed to colors. And then going to the horror elements of the film that end up coming up, a lot of the blood is like movie blood, legit stuff is very expensive, and chocolate syrup is very inexpensive.
Although it attracts bears.
Yeah, and then we learned a little too late that you cover an actor in chocolate syrup and put them in the woods. Actual bears do show up.
Oh my.
Wait,
yeah. So
this sounds like a story we need to hear.
I mean, that's the story. If you see the movie, there's a character that spends like a good third of it shirtless, covered in blood, which we used chocolate syrup to substitute for, and the
there were
woods
like
that we were
6
shooting,
wild bears,
and
including a bunch of cubs.
3 cubs, like 9 bears total crashed set one day. And you kind of have
ate
to
our
shut
food.
down.
They stole my backpack and carried it off into the woods.
Oh my.
It was pretty great. We had to have a ranger.
It sounds like you guys barely survived.
Yeah.
Boo.
You know what's funny is that like they don't really want to eat you or harm you.
Sure.
Like they want your food.
They
and
want
that's
your
about it.
like,
They're kind of afraid
nuts.
of people, but they're the black bears in America are super smart. They've learned to open trash cans and like doors and go in people's homes and eat their stuff.
I'm not afraid of car horns anymore.
No.
I was just thinking, because we've talked about like the horror blood stuff before, and I haven't really thought about it like this, but like when people do get covered in blood, like there's a lot of horror type movies that are, like people get sprayed with blood and blah blah blah, and it's like a shock factor, and people are like, ew, gross. And it's funny because while I guess there's some grossness, when I'm watching it, I don't get like shock factor gross. I think about it in terms of like character, where like, oh, they're willing to go through this to achieve their goals. And I feel like if it were color and just like all splattery,
The color of blood is so like it's such a unique shade of red that like there's only one thing to associate it with. So like that it trigger it would probably be way too much if there was if the movie was in color and he's covered in blood like that. No one really wants to look at him covered in blood.
It would change the
if he's in
tone
black and
dramatically.
white- Yeah, sure.
And I think the scene that you're talking about, like the character's performance in that scene is like the most important thing, and like you said, like what they're going through. Like if there was red blood, like and it was shocking at all, like we wouldn't be paying attention to that as much. So I think it's the right. I think it's the right choice.
Yeah, the black and white did a number of things for us, and it I just have to. It was a movie where we were allowed to trust our instincts, and we weren't beholden to anyone but ourselves on a creative level. In a different situation, we might not have been so fortunate, and then you're making compromises. Shape of Water, for example, I just found out was intended to be in black and white, but they couldn't get funding for it unless they agreed to do the movie in color. And similar thing happened with Mad Max: Fury Road, and
they have a black and white version of that now, though, don't they?
Yeah, and they have they totally have a black and white version of that.
And Logan.
And Logan, yeah, that's another one.
I would like
Logan
to see
would've
Shape
been-
of Water in black and white. That'd be interesting.
Yeah. I mean, the movies that inspired that film are all black and white, like Creature from the Black Lagoon and that whole subgenre of those like monster B movies.
You could watch Shape of Water and like turn the chroma off on your TV.
You totally could. Yeah.
I did that once. Like embarrassingly enough, I did that once with Eat, Pray, Love, because so much of it takes place in like Europe, and I was thinking of like 1950s like Fellini Italian movies when she's in Italy, and I was just not into the film at all or like the way that it looked, and I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna try it in black and white, and I watched like the rest of the film in black and white, and I don't know, it worked for me.
I've never seen that movie, but if I do, I'll do the same.
Yeah, I recommend it. So we've already talked about you guys writing the film, and it sounds like you wrote it like while you were in grad school, or was it like right after grad school?
Yeah,
We
during
were
grad school.
in school.
It was fun because we had to be taking our thesis class where we had to write features, but like while we were banging out these things that were getting all these notes that were all contradictory and like who knows, at the same time, we were just writing a feature on our own.
And, like, producing it. Like, we were in the stages of pre-production and fundraising and casting and all of that while we were in our last year of grad school dealing with our thesis projects. And
Yeah, like Spring Break was out in New York casting.
Yeah.
I was kind of wondering, actually, what was getting the project off the ground like? What did it take? And I guess you guys were going to school at the same time, so what exactly was that like, and what kind of experience was that for you guys?
Difficult.
Yeah. Sure. It was definitely difficult. But rewarding. Yeah. I mean, what was interesting was, you hit all of your family, friends of friends, like we had like legit investment. It was my second feature. So I'd like gone through the investment process before, and this time was, it wasn't any easier, but I was, I think, a little more prepared for it.
I think I spent about, in my head, like 2 straight months making about 3 hours of phone calls every day.
Just trying to get people excited about it and interested in being a part of the film in any way. I mean, the film was mostly funded by a lot of smaller investments. And, you're trying to cast simultaneously so that investors can get excited about who's going to be in this film. So it was kind of it's a chicken or the egg thing. You're in a weird position.
Which would you rather eat for dinner?
Yeah, a chicken or an egg.
Will's so sad about that.
But like once we, we hired a casting director and we got enough money to hire casting directors so we could have casting sessions and then put people in it that would then get our investors excited about the movie and want to invest in it. And it worked out. It's a long process and it wasn't easy.
It seems like we lucked out, but basically if you can get a script people are excited about and then you can get the first $5,000-$10,000, like enough to lock in a couple casts to be like signed on. Then it was pretty neat because we got people like Christy Romano and Cheyenne Jackson, and they were working for so little money that I could turn around, or we could turn around and talk to people and be like, "Hey, you should invest because these actors who are legit are doing.
They believe in this project,
because they think it's worth doing, despite not really getting paid much."
Yeah, I mean, everyone knew what they were getting into, in terms of the actors. Like they, no one did this movie for the money,
right?
It was a passion project for all involved creatively.
Yeah. So did y'all approach Cheyenne Jackson and Christy Romano and some of the bigger names in there, or did they come to you through the casting director?
A little of both. So with Christy, our casting directors, for all the main roles, they compiled a list of their top 10 offers they'd like to make, to various names or well-known successful actors that they think would be right for it. And these are people who would not be auditioning for the project. This is just hey, if this person says yes, are you comfortable giving them the role? That kind of thing. And so Christy came that way. She was on that list. We got the script to her and her people. She liked it. I met with her and talked it through, and then she agreed to do it. And Cheyenne was a little different because we had flown to New York, did a whole big casting week. We did a whole week of casting for most of the roles. The role of Harry, that was written for that actor who I've known for a while. But we weren't really happy with any of the auditions for Hudson. No one was quite right, and we loved the role too much to settle for anyone less than amazing. It's
sort of a complicated casting role because we wanted this sort of deranged, disheveled woodsman with no social skills, but who's beautiful,
really hunky.
That it causes a relationship problem.
Yeah, I want every guy that watches the film to be emasculated just looking at Cheyenne, and I think that's the case. Anytime I look at a photo of him or see him in person, I just feel bad about myself. And what's worse is that he's the sweetest human being ever. So it's just, it's great. But no, so we left that week of casting really kind of frustrated because the ball was rolling on the project and we were so excited about all these other actors we were going to get. And we had no one that we liked for that role. And then my girlfriend and I were sitting around talking about, okay, well, strategically, who's a Broadway, where I'm a big, theater fan, I'm thinking of who's a Broadway guy who is New York based, because we were shooting the movie near New York, that, would be good for this. And we threw around some names, and then she said Cheyenne Jackson, and I thought that's amazing. And I don't really think we could ever get him, but we could try. So we, shot an email to the casting directors and said, like, what about Cheyenne? And they said, well, get the script to his reps, and they did. And within 48 hours, they hit us back saying he's in, and it was like, okay, awesome. Like, all right, yeah, didn't expect that, and I'm very fortunate that he did that. We've worked with him since, and we love working with him, and he's amazing.
Awesome. So Harry, the friend, you said you worked with him before. So is this like a friend from school that you kind of, always had in mind, or is it someone you worked on something else with?
So I first saw him in a production of Our Town at a theater in upstate New York. My girlfriend was doing the play, and he had like a dozen small roles in the show, and he was just amazing. And I kind of like filed him away in my head. I was still in school. I was still at NYU at the time, and I was like, that guy's amazing. One day if I ever get to make movies, like I want to put him in stuff. So then when my thesis film rolled around, I wrote a role in it for him, having only met him that one time a year prior, and I wrote this role for him, and then reached out and asked if he would be interested in doing it, and he came in, and he was amazing. And then we just became very close friends since then, and he's been in just about everything I've ever done. It's fun to write for him. He can get away with a lot.
Yeah, he's really great. And then I guess he's one of the lesser known people that are in the movie, and I think he deserves like all the credit in the world for what he does.
Yeah, he's totally so the standout. I mean, I think unanimously every screening we've done, and the people who see the movie, like he's the one that. And I think, like you're saying, because he's lesser known, it really grabs your attention because you're like, who the hell is this?
Right, he's like the breakout.
Yeah. And he's doing great now. Like he has booked a ton since the movie, and he's moving to LA soon, which is cool. Mm-hmm. So we'll get to work with him a little more. That was the other tricky thing is, we're based in LA, and we made the movie on the East Coast. So last year we did a series, and that was the first time we had worked on something that was based in LA, and it was nice. It was definitely comfortable.
Do you get to go home, like to your house or wherever you live?
Yeah, it was amazing.
Exactly, as opposed to living at an Airbnb cabin in the woods, sleeping on a yoga mat on the floor for a month, which is what we did on the set of Bear With Us.
And instead of working with a bear, we just had to have a donkey, which was much easier.
But not as easy as I'd hoped.
Nope. We couldn't afford a movie donkey, so we had to get
like a party donkey.
Oh, but what is a party donkey?
It's like you can
just like these donkeys that just love to get wasted.
Oh
no!
Did it have anything to like? Did you have to pin the tail on the donkey before every take, or
it came with its tail?
Oh, okay.
The tail was attached. Yeah.
Well, at the start of the shoot.
Yeah.
Okay.
The nail did get rusty.
He was really depressed.
No, just like donkeys that are for like 10-year-old girls' birthdays where they can like pet it.
Yeah, like petting zoo donkey.
Get on it and ride in a circle type things.
I don't think
you
want to
can't
ride
it.
This was like a look at it kind of donkey. Like, look at that donkey.
Yeah, and then let's stay away from that donkey.
That is true. But yeah, the series we did last year, we wrote this donkey, and we wrote it as a horse in the show, and like the idea is someone gets someone a horse as a present, and they present it to them in the living room. But the house we ended up shooting in, the ceilings were too low for a horse, so we got a donkey and refer to it as a horse the entire time. So we had a fun little bit.
That's funny.
Of physical restraint.
And that show is called Horsin' Around.
No, it's not.
It's called You Bet Your Ass.
No.
It's BoJack Horseman.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. No, that's a show called Stellar People that the release is TBD, but it's finished, and we're very excited about it. It's super cool. It's a weird sister piece to Bear With Us, honestly. It's got a lot of similarities, but it is very bright and vibrant with color, and it's like a sci-fi comedy.
Well, it makes sense that it would be a sister piece because it has the same parents.
Yeah.
No, you didn't like that?
No, that was good. That was sweet.
Are there any like specific like challenges that you guys had like during production or stories from production that you guys just want to tell that are like kind of fun or whatever interesting?
You should see the looks we're giving each other.
It was a really hard movie to make. I think it's a testament to the cast and to Russ.
To all of us.
To really everyone. Like, it's not fun to live in a crappy cabin for a month away from home, making no money. You know what I mean? Like, people really just put literal blood and sweat and tears into it. I mean, Mark Sullivan, who's the lead of the movie, he got bit by a brown recluse spider one day on set and hid it from us because he just like was trying to like do his job and didn't want to. He knew that if he went to the ER, that like our day is shot. Right. But once we found out, we were like, dude, like, you gotta go to the ER. Like, you got bit by a dangerous, deadly spider. So little things like that,
like spiders,
you know, and that's like a fun story to tell. There's plenty of not fun stories to tell that we're not probably comfortable putting into this recording.
But there's other not fun but tellable ones. Like we were running on well water in the middle of nowhere, and the well broke.
Because 30 people were using the plumbing every day in a house built for 4 people, and it was old, and we busted it.
They just had no running water
ever. And we had porta potties. Like, so we're in the woods. We're so far from anything already, and now we're having to use porta potties, which I dubbed Bonnaroo. So, and anyone was going to Bonnaroo, then they were going to the bathroom, which was like down the street at the porta potty, and it smelled awful.
Or like, we talked about the bear coming. Like when the bears first arrived, we lost half a day because people were like, "We're not going to film with bears trying to eat us."
As
and
they
like,
shouldn't. Yeah.
Come on, guys, I don't get it. And so we had to have this ranger come in. I don't know, Justin, if you remember if I told this story in Texas, but like we needed a ranger to come in to try to like teach us bear safety, and this guy was Ranger Bob, and Ranger Bob was great because he just comes in and goes like, "Y'all worried about bears? Bears more afraid of you than you are of them. You're from Brooklyn. I'd rather walk around the woods covered in meat in the middle of the night than ever walk around Brooklyn. What you guys got to be afraid of?" We're like, this is not helping us stay safe from bears.
Thanks for the advice.
You're cool, dude. Yeah.
And he's like, "Bear ever comes up at you just say, 'Hey, bear, you get out of here.'" And we're like, okay. But as he's trying to tell us that we can just like tell a bear to leave, and it will leave, a bear literally, there's no exaggeration here, a bear starts like sneaking up behind him.
And we're all looking at him like do we tell him? Like there's a bear behind him
Ranger
right now?
Bob, a bear is coming directly toward you.
And getting very close.
Yeah, and finally we're like, Ranger Bob, turn around. He's like, "There's one now." He goes, "Hey, you bear, get out of here." And he just starts like clapping his hands and like waving at the bear. And the bear's like, "What the heck is this guy doing? This guy's crazy. Freaking me out. I'm out of here." And the bear just laughed.
And the bear definitely laughed.
And so we learned, and then everyone was forced to go back to work.
Yep. Yeah, but I guess the idea is you want to be loud and big. You want to like put your arms in the air, stand on a chair, like, you know,
like you just don't care.
Yeah, you know, make yourself bigger than the bear, or appear bigger than the bear. And, you know, we're like slamming apple boxes together to make horrible loud noises. And it worked. Like that actually was a pretty good trick for a while. And then there's like a bear horn, which is really just an air horn. It's rebranded and probably priced much higher than an air horn.
It's spelled BAIR, so I think they were just painting an extra letter on there. So it was a pretty crazy.
Yeah, so I mean, little things like that. But it was a quick shoot. It was a 20-day shoot, and
basically, like every day there was something that went wrong, and it became clear that the movie was going to completely fail. And then by the end of the day, we had figured out a workaround, and so then we like slept.
Yeah,
and then by morning.
But whenever we were rolling, like between action and cut, like, we were all having a great time. Like, and I think that shows for sure. And the fact that you'd watch the movie, and I don't think you can tell that it was, you know, kind of a shit show behind the scenes. I think that's a testament just to, I think, the cast.
Ooh.
I was moving into post-production. How long was that process?
About a year. It was long. You know, like this, I think part of the, you know, it's that old saying of you can have it good, fast, or cheap, but you have to pick two of them. And fast was not, we wanted it to be good and cheap, so fast was not on the table. So it was a lot of asking favors from people on the post side of things. Like, you know, we cut the film ourselves, and then a good buddy of mine, you know, wrote all the music, and then the same person who was our sound mixer on set, she and her business partner did all the post sound work. And, you know, because no one was getting paid their usual rate for it, it's not a priority project. So what probably could have taken 3 months if it was, you know, like a well-funded film, took about a year total.
Yeah.
All told, you know, and you factor in all the ADR sessions and voiceover stuff and, you know, all the mixing. The mixing was a long process just because there's so many details in the film, so many little like sound cue gags of glass breaking and like all of that stuff that we were trying to be kind of meticulous about, and we didn't have a deadline. It was just trying to make it as good as possible.
Well, and we had to go. Someone had to go in frame by frame and change it to black and white since we shot it in color. So that was all hand painted.
Rotoscoped. Yeah, it was really, really great.
That's amazing.
Frame by frame on the 24 millimeter film.
The work is incredible.
So from start to finish, about how long did it take you guys? Shot in 2014, 5 years, I guess.
We started writing like July
of
2013. We shot August 2014.
Edited it through
January 20.
It premiered. It did its festival premiere on April Fool's Day, 2016, in Tampa, and played festivals for about a year before getting picked up, and then
came out
last year.
Yeah, got picked up February 2017. Actually got distributed like August 2017.
Yeah, so like this past August. So like from shooting to release, it was about almost exactly 3 years.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. Which is like, as we found out, not the craziest actually for. Especially for an independent film. I mean, Cheyenne worked on a movie that he'd shot long before Bear With Us that just came out. So like, I mean, like it was just finished and just came out. So that's like late last year.
Yeah. And today is March 13th, 2018. For all you listeners, a decade from now.
How many film festivals did you guys submit to, and like how many did you get in? Like, I'm just curious, like what's the ratio?
Good ratio.
Yeah, our ratio was pretty high.
I think it was like 30 out of 100.
Yeah.
Something
I think
like
so,
that.
something like that.
We have a spreadsheet.
Yeah, we do have a spreadsheet somewhere. I haven't looked at it in over a year.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it was something like 30%.
Okay.
So we got to attend
a lot. We tried to
maybe almost half.
Yeah, we tried to have someone in attendance, and if there was two that conflicted, I would go to one, Russ would go to the other. Or if there was a cast member that was available to go, we would send them.
So mostly we do like movie reviews, and I guess most people who would listen to the podcast are like just movie fans and movie watchers. But I'm sure some of them out there are like interested in making films. So like, I guess real quick, do you guys have any like one like best piece of advice for anybody who's like aspiring to be a filmmaker?
Make a film. I mean, we spend so much time not making films, and the best part of it is making films. And I would say just make a movie. I'm totally inspired by this like iPhone movie generation. Like Tangerine, all this stuff. Like these movies can be great. You really don't need professional actors even, like as long as you have a clear enough vision of what you want to accomplish, like do it, just make a movie. Like the only way that you learn, I mean, I went to film school, and then I made my first feature like immediately after, and that was film school. Like making a feature, there's no substitute, to learn those skills. So I would just say dive in and get your hands dirty and make a movie if that's what you want to do.
And if you're trying to make sort of like, a slightly more expensive thing. I mean, ours is really cheap on the movie level, but expensive for like an individual. But the whole fundraising thing of getting someone legitimate attached is like incredibly helpful for distribution and for like fundraising and stuff. So that can be an exciting first step if you can figure out a way to do that.
Yeah.
And a lot of that is about having a good script. So like I have read so many bad scripts because I do coverage and script notes and stuff. Although I've sort of stopped. Praise the Lord.
But we both teach screenwriting in various capacities, and like that really is where it all starts. I mean, people will put up with lower quality in pretty much every other department, but if your script is bad, like people check out pretty quickly.
And a thing that I think I see really often is that people believe in themselves too much. But for real, like there's so many people I give notes to who then will like explain why my notes are wrong, right? And I think you can get really stuck if you're not willing to like make it a collaborative process and accept feedback and learn where weaknesses might be and be willing to like attempt to overcome them and improve.
Yeah, you kind of have to. simultaneously have an ego and be willing to set it aside. You know, it's a strange balance to strike. You have to be confident and you have to know what you want, but you also have to let other people in.
Well, the funny line is that writers are people with huge egos and no self-esteem.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. That's totally true.
To think that you can create this thing that people will care about, but then we all don't actually trust our own abilities. Well, I had something else.
Watch a lot of movies too. I feel like watching movies, watch good movies, figure out what you like and what you don't like. You know, watching a bad movie to this day, like, I'm down to watch bad movies. I've got Movie Pass. I've had it for 6 years, and I see as much as I possibly can. I feel like every time I see a bad movie or read a bad script, I'm just strengthening my own abilities and, you know, sharpening my own tools.
So another mistake I think I see way too often is people get stuck on their first idea. Mm-hmm. So they think they have an amazing idea, and so they work on it, and they work on it, and they work on it, and they try to perfect it, and they're like, no, this is it. I've struck gold. Like, I'm going to make this script work. I'm actually going to make it happen. And really, you improve the most by finishing something and moving on. And so to think that you only have one idea is like selling yourself short. Mm-hmm. So, like, I think the most important step that, like, a writer can take, like, the thing that delineates, like, real writers from amateur writers is the writers who abandon completed projects. Mm-hmm. 'Cause you need to be able to move forward and do the next thing, and you learn so much from everything that you complete. You know, like, I've written, like, 10 features and 8 pilots and, you know, tons of short stories and stuff. So, anyway, yeah, I think that's one of the important steps.
It's like that piece of advice: write every day. You know, just make sure you're writing something. It doesn't matter what it is.
It's a muscle that you're flexing, like, and exercising.
Mm-hmm. Are there ever any, like, jokes or something that's like just gold that's in something just sitting in a drawer somewhere, or I guess in a file in a computer somewhere, that's, like, not being used, that you think, like, man, I wish I could just bring that joke back, but it's perfect in that thing, you know?
I don't know. I think over the years, just writing for comedy, I've gotten so used to killing my darlings,
right.
and I've kind of gained a confidence in joke writing. I now am not as worried. You know, like, the fear is, oh shit, like, what if I can't write another good joke?
Right.
And now I'm pretty confident that I can, as long as the character is strong enough and, you know, the situation is interesting enough, then, like, a good joke will come to me, you know.
Yeah, I like all the jokes that I have jokes that I'm in love with, and then a year later I can't remember what the joke is. You know, like, I don't know. We had to cut stuff out of Bear With Us that I thought was the funniest thing in the world, and, like, I literally can't even remember the scenes that are missing anymore.
I mean, this table read we did today, we just had to kind of admit that
our favorite scene didn't land.
Our favorite scene, like, in the writing process, it just didn't land the way we wanted it to, and we're like, maybe it's not that funny. Like, let's cut it, and I think the piece will be stronger. And you know, oh well, you know.
And, you know, I don't have specific jokes or anything, but something cool for me is, like, I'm always trying to brainstorm and come up with ideas or blah blah blah. And so I've got a whole list of log lines, ideas, concepts, jokes, whatever, and I keep all that in a document, which is useful, but it's not, like, tied to anything. And I think, to me, it's surprising how eventually, like, things will find the right medium or something. Like, I had, like, a weird sci-fi concept when I was, like, 13, you know, and it still just sat around, and, like, that's the thing coming out as a short story that I sold that's coming out on a podcast tomorrow. And, like, I finally figured out, like, oh, this doesn't have legs enough to be anything major, but, like, oh, I think I could do a short story based on this concept. You know, when I hadn't thought about it in 15 years or something.
Yeah, that's really cool. You guys brought it up. What else? What's coming next for both of you guys? You have the podcast with your short story coming on it. What's that?
So Russ is he's getting to be a pretty successful sci-fi fantasy short story writer. Talk a little about that.
Yeah, it's been exciting because I've always loved that stuff. So it's kind of like Will is more of a multi-hyphenate in the film world or something, because he's a writer and a director. So I'm like, man, I got to figure something out while he's directing.
I got to add a hyphen.
So yeah, exactly. So I've been doing these short stories, and now I've, like, sold a half dozen of them to various magazines, and I went to, like, this really cool writing program. It's like this whole weird niche world. But it's fun, you know. I've always wanted to like be published, and now finally I can like hold.
Yeah, you're like a writer.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
it's been cool.
Yeah,
and I'm writing on an app right now that's super cool called Tappity, which is because we also both teach, and I love teaching. And it's an education app on iPads for kids like 4 to 11 that teaches them science with like interactive little videos and stuff. So like I just wrote a tour of the solar system and like an overview of evolution. So that's super neat to get to do like something, again, a different medium.
That's awesome.
But that I feel like is adding to the world.
Yeah, and you guys said you both teach. Where do you guys teach at?
Well, I'm crazy lucky enough. I teach at Chapman, where I went to grad school. So I'm teaching like freshman screenwriting classes.
And I've been last year started doing the summer program up at Stanford for a screenwriting course for the pre-collegiate institute. Yeah. So it's all like high school students.
Yeah, I used to teach there because that was my undergrad. But then I got
too busy.
I got into the sci-fi fantasy writing program, and so I handed it off to Will. We're slightly distracted because we may or may not have had HQ trivia open, and Will is on question
whatever they're on.
Hasn't gotten one wrong yet, and there's only 1,000 people left, so he's distracted.
That's awesome. Yeah, I downloaded it, but I can never get to it at the right time. Like it's always just started, and I just miss out on it. So I haven't done it yet, but it's been on my phone for like 2 weeks.
There's only 700 people left.
Yeah, wait, I knew that one. That was a film question.
Yeah.
Oh, Kubo. Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like I've discovered a love of teaching. I did like a guest thing over at a guest spot at the University of Hawaii, and I did like a lecture thing in North Carolina. So like I'm getting more into it, and I really love it. But you know, it's only as far as like my schedule will allow.
Cool.
Wait, isn't it Wodehouse? Or I don't know.
Yeah. All right, we got to question 12.
Question 12. Will may or may not win $1 billion starting right now. Is that who you thought?
Well, I hope you do win $1 billion.
It can't be Mark Twain.
Yeah. Then you can make whatever movie you want to make.
Yeah.
Or just the prize is only $2,500.
What if you win HQ Trivia live
while on a podcast?
I lost because I just picked randomly.
I don't know. I honestly didn't know this last question.
Yeah.
I got it right.
What was
the
question?
Won HQ Trivia.
Just won HQ Trivia. I didn't fuck you. I lifted you up to the Eagles.
How much did I win?
How much did you win? There were like 500 winners. So that's what? Like $25 or something? Or
wow.
Is it 50?
That's not bad.
Yeah, that's a nice dinner.
Okay, so back to business here, I guess.
Yeah, sorry. Back to the reason that we're all here.
So we want to do a thing, I guess, where each one of us, all 5 of us here, pick a film that if the listener likes that film, they will probably like Bear With Us. And like, just kind of like, if you like this film, definitely check out Bear With Us. So you guys down for that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That sounds great.
And I guess we'll go first. Should we go first, or do you guys want to go first?
Sure. No, you guys go first.
Yeah. And then maybe, hopefully, you'll take all the ones that we were going to say, and we'll just scramble.
Yeah, we'll have to we can take all the good ones.
Okay, I guess, Chris, you want to go first?
Yeah, absolutely. I thought Noises Off is a movie that I was we talked about the screwball comedy of it all, but just everything going on and having to track all the different events that are happening. It reminded me a lot of Noises Off. If you like Noises Off, you're gonna like Bear With Me or Bear With Us.
Yeah. What is Noises Off?
Noises Off. It was originally a stage play. It has Christopher Reeve in it and Michael Caine. Really good movie. If you haven't seen Noises Off, check that out. First watch Bear With Us, then go check out Noises Off.
Or read it even. It's a fun read.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
As a play, it's that classic French farce we were talking about.
Yeah.
Like anytime one door closes, another opens.
Right.
It's just kind of like relentless in its comedy.
Mm-hmm. Anytime God closes a door, He opens another door.
They just revived it on Broadway like last year.
Oh, did
they?
Played
for a little while. Yeah.
That's a fun set. If you ever get the chance to see it on like in the theater, it's always a fun set to see on stage.
Yeah, it's like a 2-story deal with a
rotating set. Yeah.
Yeah.
Depending on the budget, I suppose, but.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Okay, Mike, you want to go next?
Sure. So when I was watching Bear With Us, one movie that I was thinking about quite a bit, like I guess tone-wise, would be Bowfinger from 1999. Frank Oz directed that. It's got Steve Martin and Eddie Murphy, and that's more about making movies, and it's not really like similar plot-wise, but tone-wise, I think it gets really crazy at the end, and you kind of have to like except some things because it's like a high comedy, So anyway,
I haven't seen that in a long time.
I love both.
I
mean,
love
it's
that movie.
again a protagonist who's got an insane plan that like actually is crazy.
He's got to talk people into going along in with it, and
yeah.
Yeah, that's a good shot and a great movie. And I don't know if you guys have you watched it since like getting into film and actually trying to make films?
Nope.
I think I did. What is that movie called? Like Chubby Rain?
Chubby Rain.
Chubby Rain, yeah. Yeah.
So absurd.
My appreciation for the movie grew. Like, I loved it before, but once I was in film school and stuff, and then I watched Bowfinger again with some friends, like, it's amazing. It's really, really good.
Yeah, Heather Graham's in it.
awesome.
She's great. Everyone's great.
Nice. I gotta check it out again.
Okay, so my turn, and I guess I'm not going to pick a movie. I'm going to pick a TV show. I think that should be okay with everybody. But
Lost.
Yeah,
Lost, exactly like Lost.
Yeah, it reminded me
There's
of
polar
Lost.
bears.
Yeah. All you need is a smoke monster.
Yeah, but for real,
We have a metaphor.
for real, I'm going to go with like Arrested Development as mine.
Yeah, that's fun.
And I guess the reason is that the dialogue is so like cleverly written, and there are jokes that happen within the first like 10 minutes of the movie that like come back later, and like if you're not paying attention, or maybe you don't process the joke and put it in like your memory bank the first time through, like when you watch it again on a second or a third time, you start to catch these in jokes that pay off or that come back around. You get more out of it, I think, like a second and a third time than you do on your first viewing. Like you can't possibly process all of the jokes that are happening and bear with us because they're so like the dialogue's so rapid and fast paced that I think a second viewing benefits you, much like Arrested Development.
Man, that's high praise.
We have learned though in this life of sitting through screenings of the film, which I only sit through the last 30 minutes of the movie anymore because I can't bear it. But having that many jokes packed in is great. But it's kind of like shooting yourself in the foot because people are laughing over
your pain.
So like if your setup and punchline are both punchlines, the second one is probably not going to be heard by people.
Yeah.
And it's a problem we've learned, but I guess it's not really a problem. It just makes rewatching that much more fun, and we have to be okay with sacrificing that joke.
I think my favorite one that I didn't catch the first time, and I'll be vague, but somebody is not good on their feet in the film, and that's one I didn't catch every iteration of that joke until the second or third time through it.
Yeah, I'm glad you picked up on it. That's one of my favorites for sure.
Yeah.
It's a weird one.
I think there's jokes we wrote that I still haven't picked up on.
Okay, so
Right, Russ?
you guys.
Yeah, I think The Revenant. I think I'm supposed to say Airplane.
I'm not supposed to say anything.
I don't know. Well, just because like the total ridiculousness of it mixed with like weirdly high stakes, and we're just like informed by like old timey silly movies. Like, we do like a straight up Holy Grail reference. So I feel like that's a lot of the stuff that we watched growing up that gave us our sense of humor, like things that can really get over the top and do jokes that just like seem so dumb, but maybe are somehow hopefully amazing.
Yeah, so if he's saying Airplane, I'm going to say Wet Hot American Summer for a similar reason. I did not grow up watching it. I did not see it until I was in college. And it's just that, the same kind of thing. Some of it is so dumb, but if you can get on board with it, it is such a fun movie to watch. And the series too, I think, is pretty great. But you have to just kind of like let go,
We've gotten like we've only gotten a few people who dislike the movies. Mostly people like,
but that's fun too.
It is,
yeah.
But I think we've gotten people loving the movie because it's highbrow, loving the movie because it's lowbrow, and then disliking it for the same reasons. So I don't think anyone can understand whether like things are so dumb that makes them smart or not really. I know what you mean.
That's a good one. I totally agree with Hot American Summer.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, well, Airplane's funny because it was definitely formative when I was young, and I memorized every word of it and watched it over and over and over again. But like within the last couple of years, I myself and other friends we're all starting to realize that movie was a straight parody of another movie that came out.
Airport, right?
Yeah, no, it wasn't Airport. It's got a weirder title than that. But it's like this weird black and white film. The entire thing is up on Vimeo. You can watch it. And now I'm trying to figure out if someone else wants to Google it before me. I'm working on how fast my fingers work. But yeah, it's like, so it's not as original as I thought, which is kind of interesting.
And it's also one of those things that has joke after joke.
It's called 0 Hour, I believe. Is what I find. 0 Hour exclamation point.
Right.
And like the movie, when you watch, there's someone did a compilation of like back-to-back scenes, and in 0 Hour, they're playing it straight, and in Airplane, it's almost the identical delivery, but in the context of like the absurdity that they fill the rest of the movie with, the stuff that they rip directly from 0 Hour becomes incredibly funny. But yeah, it's pretty much ripped directly from that movie. So in hindsight, it's like, well, it's not, you could never strive to make your own Airplane, because Airplane was parody of something. You know what I mean?
It's also like super quippy and quick and clever, but it doesn't have any like real character grounding or anything.
Yeah,
so
there's not a lot of substance to it.
The main difference.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, and if people do like these things or are intrigued and want to go see your film, where can they do that?
They can do it right now on Amazon Prime. If you're a Prime member, the movie is free. If you're not a Prime member, you can rent it for a few bucks, or buy it for like probably too much, so just rent it.
Pretty much like anywhere you can rent stuff. Google Play, Amazon.
For a while it was on
Xbox,
PlayStation and Steam.
It's still on all those.
Okay.
Yeah.
YouTube movies, technically, but
Blockbuster.
You pay to rent it.
Blockbuster.
We've had a weird string of people we know going to stay in hotels in random places, and it's like popping up under the recent hits section.
It's like next to Ghost in the Shell,
and it's like
awesome.
total. It was a mistake, clearly a mistake, but we'll take
happy
it.
Mistake.
Totally happy mistake. Or our distributor really just put in the extra
money
to position it there. So we don't really know, but a lot of people we've been told have been watching it in hotels.
Yeah, every couple of weeks we get a picture of some friend at a hotel, like taking a selfie in front of their hotel TV screen.
So that's cool. I guess if you're at a hotel, check it out and let us know.
If you watch it and like it, review it on Amazon.
Oh yeah, that's totally helpful for indie movies, and I think people either get that or they don't. They watch a movie and they move on to the next thing, or they appreciate how the word of mouth really is the marketing for indie features.
Literally, our most recent Amazon review said she knew nothing about it but watched it because of the IMDb rating.
Yeah,
which blows my mind.
Yeah. But I mean, it also is super encouraging and makes me feel good about the world that there's people out there watching totally random movies on Amazon just because they're reading reviews of it. Like I certainly don't do that, but it warms my heart that someone out there is doing it.
So I guess that's it. And do you guys want to plug any other additional projects you have coming up? Plug like your own like social media things if you want people to follow you, like whatever.
I'm constantly, we both constantly have stuff going on, and you can follow me on all the social things at WJ Strobelight, spelled how it sounds. And what are you?
I'm at Russ Nickel.
Yeah, pretty easy.
Yeah.
Twitter and Instagram. I do more on Instagram. I haven't totally cracked Twitter yet. But you can follow the film at Bear With Us Film on both of those platforms as well. And we constantly throw up updates.
Instagram.
Okay, well, thanks for being with us, guys.
I think my favorite part of the whole podcast is when we say something that we think is a joke, and then there's a little pause, and then you say, okay.
But this is great. This is actually, we both despise conference calls, and this has been fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm glad you guys enjoyed it. We enjoyed having you on. And
yeah, this is fun.
This is our first guest on our podcast, so it was an experiment, so thanks for bearing with us.
How was it for you?
I've had better.
Yeah, it was fun. It was actually really fun.
No one else. You just said that.
Yeah.
Well, that's good. Thanks for watching the movie.
Yeah.
The fact that anyone has seen the movie more than once that I'm not personally related to is kind of insane to fathom. So that means a lot.
Mm-hmm. That was awesome. It was worth it.
Yeah, it was really funny. Genuinely funny.
Okay, that was our interview with William J. Stribling, the director of Bear With Us, and Russ Nickel, the writer And we want to once again thank those guys for coming on.
Absolutely, thanks.
Super fun to talk to them. Of course, as always, we want to thank you, the listener, for listening. Also, Jake Wagner Russell for doing our intro and outro music. You can find more of his music at soundcloud.com/bopscotch.
Our next episode will be on Casually Criterion. It is Sallow in the 120 Days of Sodom.
It's the big one, guys.
Yeah, so that's going to be a feel-good time.
I'll probably watch Bear With Us twice afterwards.
Yeah,
just to feel better and more uplifted.
Yeah.
And if you want to follow along with what we're watching next, what we've already watched, tell us what you think. You can follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at casualcinemedia. You can join our Facebook group and talk film with us at facebook.com/groups/casualcinemedia. And you can email us directly at casualcinemedia@gmail.com.
Yeah, absolutely. Real quick, this was kind of an experiment, a first for us. If you guys like this, send in something. Let us know that you like this, and we can maybe line up some more.
So yeah, go check out Bear With Us, and don't forget that it really helps out like independent films and filmmakers if once you watch the film, review it, and particularly on Amazon. Like Amazon reviews help the film. So even if you watch it on iTunes, go to Amazon and rate it. Give it a rating and a review on there.
Yeah, it helps give them some extra attention, and they deserve it.
Absolutely. Every little bit helps. All right, guys. Well, I had a great time. So until next time, see you later.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.